Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on unusual presentations of appendix. It is something very important to all of us because we do appendix right day in, day out. For this session, we have panelists Dr. Zoeb Haider sir from Nagpur and Dr. Santosh Somani sir from Akola. And we have our speakers, Dr. Siddharth Dubashi, Dr. Prashant Bhaute, and Dr. Abhay Chaudhary. So I hand over the proceedings to Dr. Santosh Somani sir and Zoeb Haider sir. They just give brief introduction about the topic, and the first presentation will be from Dr. Siddharth Dubashi sir. Santosh sir and Zoeb sir.
Yes, I welcome all the speakers, Dr. Abhay Chaudhary and Dr. Dubashi, Dr. Prashant Bhavate, and Thakur sir is there. I think so. Thakur sir is there. I am audible, Yogesh?
Yeah. He will be joining us very.
Okay. Yes. So today's is very interesting topic, that is the atypical, that is called as the unusual presentation of appendicitis. And very much I am thankful to our ASN and VSA organization to give me the good opportunity for the panelist. And today's topic is very interesting. Appendicitis, that is unusual presentation, and atypical presentation we call as. They are atypical presentation, maybe have a different location, retrocecal location, maybe malrotation with the situs inversus, and stump appendicitis, double appendicitis, double appendicitis. This appendicitis could be present within the maybe with a paraumbilical hernia, femoral hernia, inguinal hernia, incisional hernia, or obturator hernia. So we have a good speaker today. I hand over to our my second panelist, Mr. Dr. Zoeb.
Good evening, everybody. Though appendicitis is so common and a very routine operation, but lot of time it sweats even the senior surgeon because of improper diagnosis or misdiagnosis or so many pathologies associated with it. Hence, this topic is very important, that when we should operate appendix and what are the pathologies you expect in appendix, so that each and every specimen should be sent to path lab. These all things are very important because you should not take any operation lightly, so that you don't operate lot of negative appendectomy, because any laparoscopic or open by itself has its own complication. So by knowing the different pathologies and what action need to be taken and what operative procedure you should change when you suspect something like mucocele or carcinoid or any of the appendix pathology, so that this will help all of us, because this is a very routine and we should not commit mistake in it. I would like to hand over to Dr. Siddharth P. Dubashi for his first presentation.
Thank you. Shall I start?
Siddharth sir,
Yes.
please make your slideshow. Yeah, please make it in your slideshow mode, and then you can start, sir.
Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Clear.
So good evening, everybody, and thanks again to the ASN as well as the VSA for giving me a chance to present on the unusual presentations of appendix. There are two cases which I would like to present.
Siddharth sir, that control panel is seen on your screen. You can hide it. That red arrow, just click on it, sir. Yeah, just click on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's fine. Yeah. So these two presentations are unusual presentations of appendix. Actually, both of them have been published previously 4 or 5 years back, but both of them interesting, and definitely would like to everybody to know about it. The first case was 24-year-old female who presented with pain in the right iliac fossa, vomiting, fever since 2 days, with a classical tenderness at the McManus point and evidence of rebound tenderness, lab finding showing evidence of leukocytosis, and the ultrasound commenting on a dilated, non-compressible thickened appendix. So definitely a case of acute appendicitis taken for emergency appendicectomy. We had an evidence of inflamed appendix. Appendicectomy was done, and there were flimsy adhesions around the appendix. And upon separation of those flimsy adhesions, again, a second appendix was visualized, and that was also subjected to appendicectomy. So it was a case of double appendix. You can see the two lumen clearly in the resected specimen as well. This has been published in the Indian Journal of Surgery in the year 2015. Upon review of literature, the incidence of double appendix is 0.004 to 0.009%. And the first case of appendiceal duplication was reported by Piccoli in 1892. We had the first classification coming in 1936 by Cave, subsequently being modified in 1963, and now it is called as the Cave-Walbridge classification. There was an addition of another grading or another type subsequent in 1993, later on by Bierman. So this is the Cave-Walbridge classification of appendiceal duplication, when you have type A, when you have a single cecum with partial duplication of appendix. Our case fell in the type B type, wherein we have a single cecum with two obviously separated appendices. We have either a bird-like phenomenon in B1, but in B2, in addition to normal appendix arising from the cecum at the usual site, we had a second rudimentary appendix rising from the cecum along the lines of the tinea at a varying distance from the first. Actually, it was not that rudimentary. It was a prominent second appendix. You can have appendix along the tinea of hepatic flexure of the colon, or in relation to the splenic flexure of the colon. We can have a double cecum, and then finally we can have a horseshoe anomaly of the appendix. Everything boils down to the medico-legal issues, especially in case of the second laparotomy revealing the previously removed appendix. So both the appendices need to be removed to avoid the diagnostic dilemmas later. Various theories have been put forth, and we have the various Caves theories which have been put forth. One has been related to the primitive midcut, or then there is something related to the persistence of an embryological structure. But whatever it is, as far as clinicians are concerned, we need to be careful about these medico-legal issues. Everything needs to be documented, and of course, nowadays we have the photography also done, but both appendices to be removed to avoid the diagnostic dilemmas. The second case is a 52-year-old female. It presented pain in right iliac fossa since 8 days, fever since 3 days. Patient was febrile, tachycardia with evidence of rebound tenderness. Again, lab findings showing leukocytosis, but an ultrasound reporting only a probe tenderness in the right iliac fossa. No comment on the appendix per se. But again, the clinical presentation mandated emergency appendicectomy. And the intraoperative findings were that there was evidence of torsion of the appendix with a counterclockwise rotation of 180 degrees. It was around 1.5 centimeter from the base of the appendix. The length of the appendix was around 8 centimeter, and it was inflamed. It was a case of appendicular torsion as seen in the photograph. This also has been published in the year 2016 in the Nigerian Journal of Surgery. Upon review of literature, we found that the first case was described by Payne in 1918, and this torsion occurs usually on long axis of the appendix and is located at least 1 centimeter from its base, and direction is mostly anti-clockwise. The torsion causes the luminal obstruction, compromising the blood supply, leading to strangulation and infarction. And clinically, again, it's an acute abdomen. So this is again one of the differential diagnoses in case of a pain in the right iliac fossa. It can be primary or secondary. Secondary means secondary to certain pathologies or within the appendix itself. It can be a fecolith within the appendix, or it can be mucosal of the appendix, or a carcinoid lesion, or a lipoma. Other theories like the fan-shaped mesoappendix with a narrow base, long appendix, they can cause the primary torsion. And we are going to have the hematological compromise leading to the increasing severity of the condition, subsequently leading to even gangrene of the appendix which has undergone the torsion. upon review of literature, different case reports probing on this, what is the initial primary event? It's the inflammation and subsequently torsion, or initially torsion is the primary event, and then there is sort of a closed loop phenomenon that promotes the bacterial proliferation, and that going to lead to severe inflammation. So this is definitely a point of conflict in different case reports. But the original report, which was given by Payne, says that torsion is the primary event. Subsequently, we are having inflammation. Actually, this cannot be usually detected on the ultrasound or CT scan, though some case reports have documented some classical signs on ultrasound, having a whirlpool or a target sign, target like appears in the base of the appendix, or the lumen of the cecum pointing towards an obstacle opening called as the arrowhead sign. But again, the point to be driven home, especially the postgraduates would be there, it's very difficult to have these anomalies detected pre-operatively as such. So these are some interesting intraoperative findings. So both the cases are open for discussion if the panelists permit. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for very nice and crisp presentation.
Thank you.
As far as torsion of appendix is concerned, it is mostly a surgical curiosity. Usually the management doesn't change. But as far as the duplication of appendix is concerned, it is very important, and we should do a thorough diagnostic laparoscopy in every case. So what do you think that should we see every time that there are two appendix, there is a Michaels or there is everything? Do you do thorough diagnostic laparoscopy for every appendectomy, or if you find an inflamed appendix, you leave it?
Frankly speaking, yes, of course, we do check for a Meckel's. But after this presentation, I think yes, one of the messages, yes, definitely we need to look upon for the other congenital anomalies as well. Now, as we find in this case, though the incidence is 0.004%, but then you never know, it might be your case. Routinely message, yes, definitely we look for a Meckel's.
6 months back, I had a case of enteric perforation. I did a diversion ileostomy and came out after full laparotomy. When I went to close the ileostomy, I detected one appendix I wanted to remove, another appendix I saw. That was an incidental appendectomy when I wanted to close the diversion ileostomy.
No, but it was not inflamed. Hello? Right?
No, none were inflamed. That was just because we were doing the anastomosis we removed the incidental appendix. None were inflamed, both were normal. I wanted to close the ileostomy, that's why I removed it.
Okay, okay.
Dr. Siddharth?
Yes.
Is there any help with CT abdomen in case of double appendix?
Actually, literature says that there is hardly any role of imaging as far as the things, because in fact most maybe now see in this case itself we went for the ultrasound of the abdomen. The problem is it may be adherent to the original one with the first appendix with the flimsy adhesions. So in fact when you separate out on table, then only the other thing can become evident. What you may see on imaging would be a single tube-like structure. On blunt dissection, sharp dissection, subsequently you will be able to separate.
Okay.
So can I take questions from audience, sir? Do you have any? Audience, please raise your hands if there are any questions. No questions right now as of now.
But one point again, if most of the postgraduates would be listening to that, whatever it is, even if you find incidental findings of the thing needs to be documented for subsequent surgeries or whatever it is. Documentation is extremely important. The discharge card will mention of these findings especially.
Yeah, sir, about looking, Atish Bansod sir has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, Atish sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, Yogesh. Hi, Dubhashi sir. Hi.
Good evening. Hello, hi.
Sir, my question is, was it a case of torsion of the appendix, or was that torsion secondary to any inflammatory adhesions present with the lateral peritoneal fold?
No, the case was a case of acute abdomen, the classical features of acute appendicitis, but on opening
Yeah.
itself, we found that it's torsion.
Okay. Means there were no
Yeah.
adhesions surrounding the appendix.
No. It was torsion, and I'm sure it was a closed loop type of a local obstruction which promoted the bacterial proliferation and elicited the inflammatory reaction.
Because many of the times what happens is secondary to adhesions with the lateral peritoneal fold.
Yes.
Many of the times
Yes.
inflammatory adhesions or maybe congenital adhesions. We get to see a twisted appendix, means not a classical torsion, but we get to
Yes.
see a twisted appendix. So that is the reason why I asked.
No, you are absolutely right. Upon review of literature, around 40% of the cases they have reported that the inflammation is first and subsequently there was torsion. Around 40% of the cases they have. That's why I said there is a conflict. But the original case report by Payne in 1918, as well as in our case, we found that it was a torsion which was.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I will, with permission of our panelists, I'll just like to take a small poll here. I'll just ask our attendees, we have 37 people online. It is described that we should mention or we should look for Meckel's and we should mention it in our notes, whether it was there or not. How many of us really look and really mention it in our OT findings where Meckel's was seen, Meckel's is present or not? Please mention it yes or no in the comments. Let's see how many really document that every time they do appendix. Please mention yes or no in your comments.
Yes.
Yeah, you see, and how many document? I am saying document in your OT notes.
Absolutely.
Last point that Meckel's was seen, not seen. Meckel's, yeah. So okay, we are getting yes from everyone. That is good thing. Documentation is also important. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So sir, we'll go for next case.
Fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir, next case is from Dr. Abhay sir, Abhay Chaudhary sir. Santosh sir.
Yes. Mainly the typical.
The sequence is
Hello?
bit changed. Yeah, sir. Sequence is bit changed.
Yeah.
Prashant Bhote sir will be last. Abhay sir is next, sir. Now you can.
Yes, Dr. Abhay, can you proceed?
Abhay sir, unmute your mic from mobile. Abhay sir, your mic from your mobile.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes.
Hello, Yogesh.
Yes, sir. Please come in slide mode.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I am presenting here a few cases of appendicular surprises during this lockdown period. So, our first case is a 42-year male who have undergone laparoscopic appendicectomy a year back. He continued to have pain on right side of abdomen and his counter irritation signs on the right iliac fossa. His USG and CT scan was inconclusive. Our case, second case is a 22-year male patient who was admitted with all signs of acute appendicitis, fever, pain, vomiting, tachycardia, and his USG was suggestive of appendicular perforation, that to a query appendicular perforation. And our third case is a 51-year male with all signs of acute appendicitis, and CT and USG was suggestive of inflamed appendix. So treatment plan for case first is a diagnostic laparoscopy, as he already undergone a laparoscopic appendicectomy. And for case 2 and case 3, we plan a laparoscopic appendicectomy. So in first case with a young male with a laparoscopic appendicectomy, there was adhesions in the right iliac fossa. We did all the adhesiolysis carefully. We initially thought all this pain is due to these adhesions only. When suddenly we saw a long appendicular base. We separate the base, we separate the appendix and did appendicectomy in this patient. The hospital stay and post-operative stay was very uneventful. and till now the patient is pain-free. This much length of this stump was there in our case. Our second case was a 22-year young male with all signs of acute appendicitis. On diagnostic laparoscopy, there was a lump and omental adhesions on the right iliac fossa. We removed the omentum and suddenly we saw pus coming from the right iliac fossa. It justifies the diagnosis of appendicular perforation with abscess formation. But surprisingly, we saw an abscess cavity which is totally separated from the cecum, and the pus was quite thick. We remove all the pus and the appendix was absolutely normal, and there was no relation of this appendix with that abscess cavity. We removed the maximum wall of the abscess cavity and the appendicectomy was done. And the specimen is removed in an endobag. Our third patient was a case of acute appendicitis. He is a 51-year male. His CT scan was also done. The appendix was quite inflamed and swollen, but there was lots of bleeding in the right iliac fossa. All structures are very friable during operation. We tried a dissection, and suddenly after dissecting, the appendix was ruptured and this type of tissue was coming from the appendix. We stopped the procedure, we convert to the open procedure, and we saw a growth in the cecum and do a formal right hemicolectomy in this patient. So surprises in our case is the case first with findings of appendicular stump. In the second case, there is abscess occurring in the close proximity to the cecal wall, probably appendicitis epiploici. And in a case 3, there was a cecal malignancy presenting with the acute appendicitis and histopathology suggestive of moderately differentiated adenocarcinoma of the cecum. Thank you. Hello.
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 Am I audible? Hello.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Hello. Yeah. I just have 3 basic questions.
Yes, sir.
Before going for diagnostic laparoscopy in case 1, you should
Yeah.
have gone for colonoscopy. Do you agree? Hello?
No, sir. Sir, all his investigations was normal. CT, sonography, all as normal. There is no other signs. He appears a healthy patient. The signs of irritation on the right iliac fossa suggest that it's probably maybe adhesions that causing him a pain.
Right iliac fossa localized adhesions are usually there, doesn't cause pain. You should have done colonoscopy before second diagnostic laparoscopy. Maybe something was missed, a malignancy, something. Hello?
Maybe, sir, maybe.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, second case, that pus which was beside, was the patient female?
No, sir. No, it was a male patient, and the culture of the pus was suggestive of E. coli.
It was a male patient.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, sir. It was
Hello?
a male patient. Hello.
It was male patient. Okay.
Yeah.
Sir,
And the
we are
culture
happy,
of
sir.
And third patient, CT did not show any cecal malignancy?
No, sir. No, it was already done. CTs from outside. He was referred to us for surgery only. On CT, there was only a inflamed and turgid, inflamed appendix, inflamed and swollen appendix. There was no malignancy
So
on
did you, what was the age of the patient?
51 year.
And then did you review the CT after surgery?
Yes, sir. But there was the CT is from maybe some center that
Because the place where I was working in Abu Dhabi, any patient suspicious of appendix above 50, the proper CT was always done. They did not rely on ultrasound because you see, like intra-op changing the procedure from appendectomy to right hilectomy is not accepted there until you have proper consent. Only you have to change your plan to save the life. There they say that you just come out and explain the patient and go next day to do hemectomy. Though I usually don't do it here, but officially, you know, when you don't have a proper diagnosis, so you don't go. Okay.
We usually do
Anybody
CT scan in all patients. We usually do a
above
CT
50
scan
when
in
you
almost
suspect
all.
it, when you suspect appendicitis in above 50 years of age. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes. Very well said.
Santosh sir.
Dr. Abhay, yes.
Yes, sir.
Only one question, that is we call as a query. Is there any role of color Doppler in such type of cases?
No, sir. I don't think so. Any. In which case, sir?
In case number 1, and I think so, and this is a case number 3, where the probability of CA cecum is there.
No, sir.
Is
I
there
don't
any
think so.
role of color Doppler? Yeah.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Yeah,
Can I interrupt here?
Thakur sir has raised his hand. Please, sir, Thakur sir.
Yeah, the case number 3, which showed the growth very close to the base of appendix inside the cecum when we opened this specimen. I really do not know whether the growth started in the appendix or it started in the cecum, but probably it started in appendix and was seen to exude inside the cecum. So probably that's the reason why CT did not pick it up. And since the diameter of appendix was quite thick and there were clinical signs of acute appendicitis, the decision was taken. And because surgery, the appendix inadvertently got opened, we decided to do hemicolectomy. Decision we discussed relatives of. I know there is a consent rather than the consent of the patient obtained. But in this particular situation, since we had opened the appendix, we decided to go ahead with right.
Mukund, what does the histopathology showed in that? Arising from cecum or appendix?
They did not comment on this, but the sickle part was very small.
But you know, common diagnosis common, so it is taken until prove otherwise is arising from cecum.
Yeah.
Hello?
So we have Ate sir's hand raised up. We have number of questions to Abhay sir. Ate sir, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, Ate sir.
Yes, sir.
Very well managed all
Hello?
3 cases. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
One thing is there that in third case, the diameter of the appendix was more than 1.5 centimeter as per comparing with the instruments of the
Yes, sir.
laparoscopy. And whenever, and this will go into definition of the mucocele, and it was mucocele. And the cause
Yes,
of
sir.
mucocele at that age is malignancy. And that you have also proved that, and you have done very well, very good management. But once that mucosa is thin, that should not rupture. That should not rupture. That precaution we have to take. Otherwise,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
upgrade the malignancy.
Yes, sir. Even on literature, benign cases of mucocele is known to cause pseudomyxoma peridoni.
Yes.
Yes,
And
sir.
therefore,
Yes, I
rupture of
agree.
the mucosa is to be prevented by any cost.
Yes, sir. Yes, I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. So we have next question from Dr. Ravindra Telkar, sir. Telkar, sir, unmute your mic. Yeah.
Abhay,
Yes, sir.
actually my question is not related with the appendectomy itself. पण मला फक्त एक
Okay.
विचारायचं आहे की स्टंप अपेंडिसेक्टॉमी मध्ये तू पेशंट्सला आणि त्यांच्या नातेवाईकाला कसं कन्व्हिन्स केलं की द स्टंप दॅट वॉज लेफ्ट बिहाइंड बाय द प्रिव्हियस सर्जन हॅज कॉज द प्रॉब्लेम नाऊ अँड दॅट इज बिंग रिमूव्ड. ते फक्त मला सांग की तू कसं कन्व्हिन्स हाऊ डिड यू पॅच अप.
त्यांना सर असं सांगण्यात आलं की मे बी अपेंडिक्स एक थोडासा अपेंडिक्स आत आहे पेशंटला.
ओके.
आणि असं एक्सप्लेन नाही करण्यात आलं की पेशंटमुळे म्हणजे पहिल्या सर्जनने अपेंडिक्स सोडलं म्हणून तुमच्या पेशंटला एवढं पेन झालं असा पार्ट काहीच नव्हता. एक पॅथॉलॉजिकल पार्ट पोटामध्ये होता आणि तो काढून हिस्टोपॅथॉलॉजीला पाठवला असं सांगण्यात आलं.
व्हेरी गुड. अच्छा. पण हिस्टोपॅथॉलॉजी मध्ये अपेंडिक्स प्रूव्ह झालं तर
होणार सर. मग आता आपण आपल्या बाजूने सेफ बाजू खेळायची सर. आपण आपले डॉक्युमेंटेशन व्यवस्थित ठेवले. द रिलेटिव्ह इज नॉट सो मच की कशामुळे झालं काय झालं.
एज्युकेटेड लोक थोडे गुप्त करतात.
हो सर. दॅट इज ऑलवेज अ पार्ट. ठाकूर सर मे बी ठाकूर सर सांगू शकतील.
अच्छा.
Hello.
As Dr. Dubashi has also got experience of duplicate appendix in 0.004% to 0.009%. The explanation can be other way also that there was a second appendix which has caused a problem.
Thakur sir, please come online, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you explain to the relative? That is the question.
Sir, in first case, stump.
Difficult job.
That's really jugglery of the words rather than keeping your diagnosis very vague, that you have removed some kind of tissue and which was there causing probably the pain. It's really difficult to hide something, but then you can play it safe with using different kinds of words. That's all.
Just कोणते शब्द वापर.
Can I add to it?
See,
Sorry.
I had an experience of yeah.
Sir, what I tell is I tell the corollary of subtotal cholecystectomy. I tell कि तुम्हारा पहला appendix बहुत difficult था, बस था, आप बेसिकली निकाल नहीं सकते, बढ़ जाता है, थोड़ा सा appendix रखना पड़ता है, और वो अभी वो निकाला, ऐसा करके I talk. That is what I encountered with some appendix. And relatives accept it. They know कि यहाँ पहला Yes, sir.
Actually, Yogesh, that is the best explanation. That because of the difficult appendectomy and adhesions, some part had remained which was removed.
Yeah. So we have one more question, sir. Vijay Chandak. Vijay, go ahead with your question. Vijay Chandak, sir, please unmute yourself. No, we are not seeing him online. Prashant, sir, you have one more question. Yeah, we go ahead with next, sir. We don't have it. Yeah, we have. Sorry, Vikram Desai, sir, has a question. Sorry, sir. Vikram Desai, sir. Vikram Desai, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Vikram, go ahead.
Okay. My presentation, Abhay. Good collection of
Thank you,
cases. I have a small
Thank you.
query in the second second case where there was a only pus which was in the retrocecal or paracecal region and an apparently normal looking appendix. So what must be the source of that pus? Did you make an attempt to find that out?
Sir, culture was done. It was only a E. coli, suggestive of E. coli. E. coli was
Yeah.
grown, and the abscess cavity was totally different from cecum. It was not a cecal, some sort of diverticula. So we
Okay.
think that it may be appendicitis, maybe secondary infection, and pus may occur in that site.
Is it possible that there were some lymph nodes there and then which got infected, which can happen sometimes in like tuberculous pathology or something like that?
Maybe, but site is very unusual, sir. It's almost a paracecal.
Okay. Can Mukund comment upon that? What could be the possible cause of pus in the treatment?
Vikram, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I
Hello.
audible? Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Possibly these things can occur as a complication of diverticular disease, but
Okay.
since this patient presented as acute pain in right iliac fossa,
Okay.
we did this, and this abscess cavity was deroofed, and later on we thought of doing the colonoscopy, not immediately, but after a few
Right.
days. But this patient turned back.
Okay.
So probably since he was ill, he never came back.
That's right. Because as such, diverticulitis is rare in our country, it is said. And that too probably left paracolic gutter abscesses are more commonly seen after diverticulitis. Right. Thank
Generally,
you so
it's
much.
seen the complications are sigmoid and rectal diverticuli.
Yeah.
Okay, Yogesh, now we can proceed for third case. I think discussion is over.
One or two questions, sir. Atish Bansal, sir, please.
Yeah, I am there, Yogesh. Abhay, nice presentation. My question has been already asked by Desai sir. So I am left with no question to ask. But I feel that post-operative colonoscopy was necessary in the second case. Considering a paracecal or a paracolic abscess could be a diverticular abscess. So means we need to do a colonoscopy in this case. Was this advised to this patient?
Yes, sir. It was advised. He didn't turn up. That's what Thakur sir said, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. We
Congrats,
have
Abhay.
next question.
Yeah.
This is the last question for this talk. Dr. Sunil Mapari, sir, please ask your question. Then we'll go to next case. Sunil Mapari, sir.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Very nice case presentation. I would like to comment. If the patient had in the first case there was a stump appendicitis or residual appendix, the patients, if the open appendicectomy is done, many times the patient gets neuralgia, neuropraxia. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And many times dense adhesions in that area can cause the pain in that area. That things we can explain to the relatives.
Okay, sir. So we'll go with next case, sir. Zoeb, sir. Yeah. Santosh, sir.
Yes. You can proceed with the next case, Yogesh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Prashant is not Yogesh.
Yes. Hello.
Prashant, sir, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Prashant.
Am I audible, everybody?
Yeah.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. I'll Good evening, everybody. Greetings from KR Hospital, Nagpur. Most of the queries which were raised by the attendees and the panelists, I think I'll be able to highlight on these issues with these two cases of mine. Stump appendicitis with port site hernia. We are going to discuss only stump appendicitis. I'm not. So this was in November 2015. 55 years old, obese, hypothyroid, hypertensive female came to our OPD with complaints of pain in the right lower abdomen since 1 month. There was pain aggravation for the last 3 days with periumbilical, which was now localized to RIF classical appendicitis. There was an associated nausea and vomiting, and she also had history of loss of appetite, and there was a restriction of normal daily activities. So clinically, the judgment was, yes, it is acute appendicitis. But then she gave a history that she has already underwent an appendectomy laparoscopically 3 years back. So we were a little bit confused what it is now. And then she, on leading questions, she said that she had similar complaints 6 months back, and she has visited a physician who has advised her a CT scan. Now on examination, she was obese, her pulse was 90, for a hypothyroid 90 is high, blood pressure was okay, per abdomen there was right iliac fossa fullness was present, tenderness was there, and there was guarding over like into the right iliac fossa was present. The rest of the systemic examination was normal. She was post-menopausal. Now this was the CT scan which was she was carrying, and which was done by a physician in February 2015 when she had a first attack. Now I'm not able to move my cursor, but if you see the arrow mark, the red arrow mark and the somewhat blue arrow mark. Now the red arrow mark shows that there is a dilated non-enhancing structure which is seen on this oral contrast CT, which is attached to the base of the cecum. Now this was almost this length was almost around 2.5 centimeter. Now if you compare the other CT scan, there was also a port site hernia with herniation of the small bowel as visualized by air fluid level, which is seen into the small port site hernia. So that was a case of stump appendicitis. Now how to manage this case? What we did, because she came with acute abdomen, we admitted that this patient, basic fitness and investigation was done. Again, an oral contrast CT was advised. Pre-anesthetic checkup was done, and she was put on antibiotics of ceftriaxone and metrogyl. Now this was the CT which was done in November 2015 when she had presented to us. The red arrow mark shows that though the dilatation of the appendix has reduced, but the length of the appendix is still present there, and it is 2.5 centimeter. And one can see that there is lot of inflammation in and around the anterior abdominal wall and the pericecal area, which I have marked with the purple arrow. Now how to compare that with this is inflammation? You have to see exactly opposite onto the left side. A surgeon must know how to read the CT scan. Now you see onto the left side there is a colon, you see the fat on that side, you see the fat on the right side, which is onto the pericecal or ascending colon area. There is a lot of inflammation or stranding in that. So that shows that there is ongoing inflammation in that area. So a diagnosis of stump appendicitis was confirmed. But this CT scan showed that there is the port site hernia is not showing any of the bowel as a content, but there was mesenteric fat which was prolapsing into this small port site hernia. So what did we do? We took a consent for laparoscopic stump appendicectomy with port site hernia composite mesh plasty. Considering that it was going to be a difficult location, it was retrocecal, we may have to convert to open surgery. I hope you are all seeing this video. This is the port site hernia which she was carrying. The content were reducible. The diameter of the port site hernia was around 2.5 to 3 centimeter. Now once this was done, we do a normal 3-port appendectomy, additional ports, working ports, 5 mm were placed. And then how now to trace that small 2.5 centimeter of the length of appendage. So for all the PG students, if they are watching, or for all the consultants, how to go for this, the normal thing is do a colonic mobilization. That's the first thing. So the cecum is mobilized, the lateral fold is incised, the lateral peritoneal fold is incised, so that the cecum, basic idea behind this is mobilization of the cecum. Because once you mobilize the cecum, you will be able to see the retrocecal part of the appendix. So that's the retrocecal appendix. Now, but since there was a presence of pus and it was an inflamed appendix, so the small redundant mesentery which was left behind by the previous surgery was dissected out by sharp and blunt dissection, and then with the help of endo loop, tracing the all tinea coli at the base, the appendectomy was completed. This small specimen, because there was presence of pus and inflammation, it was put in an endo bag and removed. And this was fulguration. Now what happened to that port site? Because there was presence of pus, we didn't want to put a foreign body inside, and it was a small defect, and there was evidence of small bowel earlier as CT had shown. So we didn't wanted this patient to go into an obstruction. So an anatomical intracorporeal suturing of that defect was done to complete the procedure. That's the complete closure of the defect. I hope my video is visible. Now the post-operative outcome was very good. She was discharged on day 2. We told her, we counseled that she would require a follow-up of after 3 months and maybe after a year to see if the anatomical repair has failed or not. But then this is not the part of for this talk. We'll concentrate on stump appendicitis. So stump appendicitis, some facts. I would like to ask the panelists, what is their say? Whether it is more in open or whether it is more in laparoscopy. Let's make it a discussion wise.
Hello.
Hello. Yes,
This
sir.
is more
What's
in
your
the
say?
more in the this laparoscopy.
Right. But this is exactly opposite, sir, what English literature is showing. That is why I asked this question. Laparoscopic, we think that this is more common stump appendicitis to leave a long residual stump of appendix, because maybe lack of 3 dimension is not there. There is absence of tactile feedback. But when I was seeing this literature, 66% reported cases till 2012 were because of open surgery. Open surgery, sir. Now, this is another interesting PDF or a chart which shows that in English literature till now there are 48 cases, and some of these I have highlighted. Some of these are from India also. Now see this, the first one with the gray line. This was a 32 years old female, underwent a lap primary surgery. The interval stump appendicitis was 5 months. She presented with right lower quadrant pain. It was diagnosed on CT, and a repeat surgery lap was done. Now the stump length which was left behind by the first surgeon after a lap appendicectomy was 4 centimeter. Now we go to the second, the black one. This was an open appendicectomy, 2 cases, open. Repeat surgery was also open. Now the length of the stump, 5.1 centimeter. That's a very long length. We go to down from India, Gupta, Dr. Gupta, He did an open surgery, right over quadrant pain, CT was diagnosed, again did an open surgery, and the stump of the length which was appendix which was left behind was 4.5 centimeter, and the least of the length which was left by a lab was 6 millimeter, and this 6 millimeter of the length was responsible for stump appendicitis. Now next question comes, what should be the normal length? I think Rahate sir has said that stump appendicitis, why it occurs? It occurs because there is misidentification of the cecal appendiceal junction, which may be masked by the inflammation. Complete or partial retrocecal like appendix, probably the common part is the cecum, the appendix gets twisted, and what you feel is the base is the tip of the appendix, and you leave behind the base of the appendix. And they say, the literature also says that if the appendix specimen, if it is less than 6.5 centimeter in length, though appendix varies in length, but this is what the literature is saying, and if you leave a stump which is longer than 3 millimeter, there is a very high chance that these patients will land up with stump appendicitis in future. And definitely duplicated appendix is one of the differential diagnosis etiology for stump appendicitis. So what lessons I have learned from this case which I did in 2015? Trace the base of the appendix. Always see where the 3 tinea coli merge. Don't dilate the port for appendix removal. I have seen personally few surgeons, the 5 millimeter port they take into the right iliac fossa to remove that appendix, they dilate it, they put the artery inside and then try to retrieve that specimen of the appendix that leads to port site hernia. With or without mesh, I think the answer is very simple. With infection, you should not put a mesh, though many people are doing it. Proper consent is very, very important. Intracorporeal suturing in selective cases, especially in this case where the hernial defect is very small, likely chances of obstruction, it should be done. Right iliac fossa bone in percentage of in cases of appendicectomy. Now Abhay has shown that case where the patient has come with classical right iliac fossa pain, who has already underwent an appendectomy. With this so high incidence of stump appendicitis, this differential diagnosis should be kept in mind. Now this is the histopathology report that shows, you should read the histopathology again, that this on microscopy shows that there is mononuclear cell infiltration, the serosal surface is congested, which was suggestive of appendicitis, and that's the case of appendicitis. We can go for a panel discussion, then I can go for my second case.
Yeah, Zoeb sir, Santosh sir. Sir, I have a question. In literature, is it reported that as we see sometimes the gallbladder distance, if you have done a subtotal cholecystectomy and the patient has come back again or from anywhere else, when you go in, sometimes you find a complete gallbladder. So it is known that gallbladder distance over a period of time. Is it known with appendix if you have left small stump and that stump has elongated or it has grown? Is it reported?
No.
Like
you are getting not reported.
5 centimeter length. You're getting 5 centimeter length of stump appendix. So either that primary surgery was really done, what was done, I don't know. But is it known that it may elongate or it may distend? The appendix may distend as gallbladder gets distended.
No. It is the person behind the wheels of the car seat is important. I'll quote this because I have seen during my residency days, there used to be a fashion of removing the appendix. I know one of the professor who used to say, I'll remove the appendix with 1 finger incision. So they used to take a 1 finger incision, put the finger inside, hook out the appendix, and then whatever part which was outside that 1 centimeter incision or 1 finger incision, that was clamped. I think many of seniors are there. They will back my this observation. So it's more of, because appendix is a fun surgery. So that is why that, so it never regrows. The tissue never regrows.
Any other question? Panelists or we have 3 questions, 4 or 5 questions we have. Okay. We'll take one by one.
Yes.
Qureshi sir,
Yes.
Qureshi sir, your question, please.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I have a few points to make regarding that lap versus open thing. I don't know which study is telling us about 66%. If this is the study of collection of stump appendicitis, because these are rare things to happen. I know it happens not very rarely, but these are all collections. I'm sure this is not a double arm study where you see open and lap and then you decide it. More cases of appendix are still done by open method. So if that is the kind of collection, then you would always get more stump appendicitis. If it is actually done in a controlled situation, I don't know whether you can say one is giving you more figure than the other. It can happen with either open or by lap. The point is you need to be diligent to find out the base and do the surgery properly. There is appendix should be the last surgery to be a fun surgery, because that is bread and butter. I think if people are doing it that way, just doing a tip appendicectomy rather than tip to base appendicectomy, then you will have such 5 centimeter long things. But let me tell you, in the best of the hands, you can at times have a big stump left, because if you have seen serpiginous appendix, it can be very deceptive even for the people who are very experienced. If you do not carefully dissect it, you will find that the tip is quite long. I mean, the free part is quite long, and you may be satisfied just removing that, and you may not actually go to the base, and base may not be seen properly. That is the reason why you can have 5 centimeter of the base covered by the peritoneum. So this can happen. In this case, actually, Prashant found some pus. So there is a culpable appendix which is there, because stump may be there. Whether it is culpable is important, because there's a port side hernia also, that can also be a cause of pain. So in a particular case, you should find a cause of pain. That is very important, because there may be a case where you may remove a stump appendix saying that it is stump appendicitis, and the patient may keep coming to you with pain. This can happen. So it is very important that you evaluate pain as pain rather than think of diagnosing stump appendicitis too early. So that is what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Pradeep Arora sir
Points
online.
well taken.
Yeah, Prashant.
Yes, I have. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, clear, sir.
Can I be heard? Okay. One is, I have some reservation about this 3 millimeter criteria. 3 millimeter is too small a distance, and there would be there would be variation in perception between the two individuals. So 3 millimeter inaccuracy can lead to stump appendicitis. That looks an exaggeration to me. And another comment that I would like to give, I have joined late. Maybe that it has come up earlier, because earlier also some presentation was on this issue only. That when you have defined from your side that this is the confluence of 3 tinea and this is the appendicocecal junction, then you relax the appendix and the junction very clearly shows off. There is no confusion if you have gone really up to the base of the appendix. And then I concur with views of Dr. Qureshi, but I could barely hear. The volume of the sound was very low. But that the diagnosis of stump appendicitis would always remain controversial. In the series that have been shown, I mean, having those lengths of 4 or 5 centimeter and being operated by the same surgeon and finding 4 or 5 centimeter, have they given explanations that what would have happened first time that they left 4 or 5 centimeter of length? Because this is not common that you leave 4 or 5 centimeter like this and then you get to operate the same case later on, unless you have the explanation. It happens sometimes that you have operated in presence of adhesions or abscess, and what you have operated is actually an appendicular abscess, and you removed a part of appendix in course of draining an abscess, and you were never sure at the time of primary surgery that you have removed the full appendix. You just took chance, and I have taken this chance several times and I have been never punished. That is, the patient have come back, and as you know, our populace, you ask them interval surgery, many of them refuse, many of them don't undergo surgery, and nothing happened to them. There are many cases of this type. So this definitely is an exaggeration. that if you leave 3 millimeter of stump more than that, there are good chances that the stump appendicitis would develop. So some of these observations. Thank you.
Dr. Amit Bhasme.
Hello, Yogesh.
Yeah, Prashant,
Yogesh, should I respond to the?
Yes, yes. Please.
This response to first Qureshi sir. Qureshi sir is very right. You cannot have a large series in that. There are only 48 cases reported, and this was a paper published in JSLS. I have this paper in front of me. This is in 2011. This was published, and they have taken out the English literature data. Though they have reported 2 case reports of their own, but then they have compiled this, and then in the conclusion, based on their study of these 48 cases, derived that gone to the conclusion that yes, you should have a stump of 3 millimeter. Personally, when I was reading this paper, I was not also agreeing to this 3 millimeter theory, as Dr. Arora is also saying. I have shared on WhatsApp the data which they have presented of 40 cases about the length on Vidarbh Surgeon WhatsApp.
Yeah.
What is the common reason for leftover appendices in this in the case report?
It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned in that. Yeah.
Well, that is very important, but to get at the root of the matter, how this happens.
Yes.
You know that leaving 4 or 5 centimeter and then operating later on, they should have explanation, especially it is operated by the same person. Though it should be uncommon, because normally patients get estranged once your surgery is not successful in their eyes, and they land up with somebody else. And there is frequently communication gap between first and second surgeon, and second surgeon may not know what were the exact condition first time which led to this scenario. Thank you. Yes, please go on.
This is the bias of this study.
Yeah. We have many hands being raised. We have one more case to go. Amit Bhasme. Dr. Amit, please go ahead with your question. Dr. Amit. Okay, Dr. Sanjay Ghate, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, Sanjay, sir.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yes, sir. Namaskar, sir. Bola.
Namaskar. Prashant or any of the panelists, I want to ask, is there any role of removing an adjacent cecal wall when you are doing the stump appendix surgery? Because first time it has been failed, so whatever it may be. So why not to remove the adjacent cecal wall and suture the cecum?
Sir, I think this, as a pediatric surgeon, you are asking this question, because in pediatric surgery, they remove a cuff of the cecal wall, if I am right. But then I don't find this as an important, because there are some cases in literature which have come with cecal rupture or cecal gangrene, isolated cases. But in pediatric cases, yes, they remove a part of the cuff of the cecum.
And another question to all panelists. If I am doing first time appendix surgery, are there any situations where there is a your advice to remove the adjacent cecal wall? First time surgery.
I don't
so sir, if you are doing a mucocele of appendix and the mucocele is not very large, like more than 2 centimeter, then you can actually apply a stapler and take out the cecal wall along with mucocele. That is described.
Yes.
Or if you have a small mass,
indication. Yes.
Yeah, if you have a small mass at the tip of appendix, you feel it's a mass less than 2 centimeter, then you can remove it with cuff of cecum.
Yes. Thank you.
Prashant Rahate, sir, you have a question?
Yeah. Thank you. I have 2-3 things to say regarding that stump appendicitis. Basically, there are 2 types of stump appendicitis. The first one, routinely what we see or we think of, this small stump is kept behind, and one more entity is there. Particularly, there was a when the pediatric surgeon, they used to do inversion appendicectomy, and those patients, they are now growing up, and during this endoscopy of the colon, they see a stump there which was inverted. So that is to be tackled by endoscopy. And secondly, because of the rising trend of this particular diagnosis, and many of us, they come across lot of cases where right iliac fossa pain is still persistent even after doing appendicectomy. And when you suspect this thing, stump appendicitis, we have to follow two rules. One of the guideline, one particular association that I have sent, first we have to mobilize the cecum completely from the downside and completely bare the cecum, even if you don't find the appendix, stump appendix there, but you turn out to be removing that part of the inflamed part of the appendix by doing that if you don't find the stump appendicitis. And steps to follow are to remove epiploicy, the momental adhesions, and often intestines, they are adherent, they are to be removed. Definitely you are going to find stump there. So these are the steps that particular organization that have laid down for following the stump appendicitis surgery. So inversion appendicectomy is also an intensive which we should keep in mind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We have just last question from Dr. Girish Mirajkar. Dr. Girish, you have a question? Or else we'll go to the next case and then we'll come back.
Good evening,
Sir,
everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, Girish.
Yes, good evening. I have two questions. One, as a surgeon, I know it is very blasphemous, but is there any role of conservative management in stump appendicitis? One. And second, does burying of appendix help in any way preventing stump appendicitis? Yes.
First question. There is no role of conservation, right? Even if you conserve the appendix, which was 85%, 90%, 70% removed, then it has come back. So it is going to come back again. So better to go in and remove the remaining part of the appendix. Regarding your second thing, many of this trend of inversion of appendix has gone in the recent area or in the recent decade, because as Rathate sir has also said, if you do a colonoscopy in these cases, now barium is not done, but if you do a CT scan of these patients, especially with the contrast, they will give you a feature of apple coring, and this apple coring gives a suggestion that this is a case of CS cecum. And these patients, because of the CT finding and apple coring, they undergo a colonoscopy, then biopsy, and ultimately land up with quarter colectomy or hemicolectomy. So inversion also has got no role in present era.
Thank you, sir.
So hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Prashant.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there any help during laparoscopy if you will do the pursing suture around the stump? Can it be helpful?
Yes, yes, sir. It's helpful, but to take that pursing suture, you will have to put one more port.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, definitely.
Otherwise, it is helpful. Yes, you will have to take one more port. Otherwise, there is no problem. You can take a pursing suture.
In your case, that pain is due to port hernia or this stump appendicitis?
Yes. Sir, I have not shown the lab reports. The TLC count, clinically, she was hypothyroid. Her baseline pulse was 70. So clinically, her pulse when she presented was 90. So that is one, tachycardia. Her TLC count was 11,900. So that is again raised. TLC count is raised. And the third most diagnostic feature was CT scan, where I have showed with the help of two markers how that fat inflammation was there. So if there is mesenteric fat trend in, it is suggestive of appendicitis. So in this case, it was stump appendicitis. There was evidence of pus. And my histopathology, if you read the microscopy nicely, then it shows serosal involvement, mononuclear cell infiltration. It is suggestive of appendicitis.
Okay. Nice.
sir,
case
She
for
came back
patient.
again. I went again for that suturing of the defect, which I did, but that is all together. But just to mention, after 3 months, I went back again in this patient, and there was dehiscence of this beautiful suturing, which I did, and I had to push a mesh again.
Yeah,
So that
sir,
is
we'll
another
go-
thing. Maybe in IPOM we can discuss.
Yeah, we'll go ahead
Yeah.
with next case. By the time you open your presentation, sir, I'll just make a comment to Girish Mirachkar, who has asked about conservative management of appendix. I remember in Mango, there is a chapter of appendix. The first paragraph itself, they have mentioned some in London, one surgeon tried to do conservative management of appendix. He tried that, and his youngest daughter succumbed to the conservative management of appendix. So just a take-home message that appendix has to be operated. Sir, go ahead with your next case.
Okay. Now this is the case of laparoscopic appendectomy from the usual which we see to the unusual which I am now going to show you. I would like to acknowledge my friend and my co-surgeon, who is an onco-surgeon, Dr. Amit Jaiswal, at the start of this presentation, who has helped me in this case. Now, this was a case of mucocele of the appendix. What is mucocele? Mucocele denotes obstructive dilatation of the appendicular lumen by mucinous secretions. The incidence is 0.2 to 0.3%. It is very rare. It is more commonly seen more in females than in males, but has got a male predisposition of more than 50 years of age. There are 4 classical types of mucocele of the appendix. One is retention mucous cyst, mucosal hyperplasia, mucinous cyst adenoma. Both this 1, 2, and 3 are benign. And the 4th one is mucinous cyst adenocarcinoma, which is a malignant. But the problem with this 1, 2, 3 is if they rupture, they lead to pseudomyxoma peritonitis. The problem with the 4th one is it is highly malignant. It metastasizes to the lymph nodes and to the liver, and it is a very aggressive form of tumor. Now, this was in 2018. He was a police person who came from 400 or 500 kilometers from Nagpur. He presented to us with chronic abdominal pain on and off for the last 3 months. He already had a report of ultrasound with him, which showed that there is a dilated appendix of 3 centimeter. So, considering this ultrasound report, we did a CT scan because 3 centimeter is too width of the appendix. So a CT scan showed a dilated appendix, which was again a larger one. This showed a width of 3.4 centimeter. It was retrocecal in location, but then there was no lymphadenopathy. The liver was normal. There was no free fluid. Now this is the CT scan of this patient. I'm not able to negotiate my cursor, but the red line is showing the dilated appendix, which is 3.4 centimeter width. Again, I am showing the mesenteric flat inflammation. You have to compare both sides. There is no surrounding fat inflammation. So it was a case of non-infective, no acute emergency, but then it was because of the dilatation, it was leading to that pain. But there was no inflammation signs. So what was the management and what anticipated difficulties a surgeon should put into his mind if you see such a rare case and which is unusual than your daily routine? Approach: you should put a laparoscope. Yes, you should put a laparoscope because conversion to open at any time is possible. You should have a consent from laparoscopic to open. Directly going for open approach, I think we'll discuss in the later part. Gadgets: you should have gadgets of harmonic versus unipolar versus bipolar while managing such cases. I am not a very fan of harmonic scalpel because it takes away your anatomical dissection. I am a very much fan of unipolar and scissor dissection, which I'll show you. Handling of the specimen: how are you going to handle such a big specimen which is 3.4 centimeter? So you should have a plan in mind before you go into that. Management of the stump: if suppose the stump is involved, how are you going to manage this stump? What consent you should take or additional thing you should do? Delivery of this specimen from the 10 millimeter port, how are you going to do? Role of frozen section: We don't, in 2018, we didn't have any frozen section in Nagpur. In 2020, we have, but then definitely this case had put into my mind, if available, I would have definitely gone for a frozen section in this case. Now this was the case. Once I went inside, this is not the appendix. The long length which you are seeing is not the appendix. The tubular structure which you are seeing is the appendix. That was the lateral peritoneal fold. Again, the same principle. In such appendix, you should mobilize the cecum. So lateral peritoneal fold was incised. The appendix was densely adhered. Again, go back to the anatomy. See the base of the appendix. See the taenia colon. That is what I am doing it now. It is covered by this peritoneal fold. So there will be a lot of adhesions. Harmonic is very handy in such cases. But then, because it is such a dilated appendix where there is a chance that this adjacent cecal wall will be densely adhered to this, I didn't went ahead with the didn't end with the harmonic. Now, once you do the dissection, this is the base of the appendix. One has to see whether this dilated portion of the appendix has gone into the cecum. The cecum seems to be relatively free. The appendix base seems to be relatively free. The method which I have done is I have learned from the appendix. There is always a small peritoneal fold which you can cross. Now, once you cross this, you reach the base of the appendix and then you ligate it, because putting an endo loop in this case was not possible. So I had used a simple suture, silk suture. Then there was also a mind that if I cut this distally, this is definitely going to cause rupture of the appendix. So I had put another ligature onto the distal part. But then my laparoscopic cholecystectomy has taught me that if you have got gallbladder full of stones, and if you divide the neck of the gallbladder without putting a clip, there is hardly any prolapse or this release of the stones, which we'll see. So what I did was, after putting this ligature, this was divided, and as expected, there was no mucin which was seen at the distal at the appendix, which Abhay video showed. And as expected, the distal ligature went away. But then see, the content has not prolapsed. So there was some mesoappendiceal bleed. You should be ready with the armamentarium. So bipolar will come into handy. It is very difficult because of the dense adhesions and chronic inflammation to have a clear plane in this. So a bipolar came into handy. So this was bipolar. One trick is you never relax the appendix in such kind of bleeding, or that matter for any arterial bleeding. You make it tense so that there is no spurt and it gets controlled. If you'll relax it, it will get a lot of, and then it is all sharp dissection, sharp anatomical dissection with the scissor. You have to turn your appendix here and there because it is very difficult to hold this appendix with the help of a grasper. So there is a very high chance to take away the wall of the cecum or the serosal surface of the cecum. So you have to churn. And now because of this manipulation, there was little bit mucin which had prolapsed from that opening mind because of the manipulation. But then the peritoneal cavity, little bit minuscule breach was there, which was sucked under visualization and magnification of the laparoscope. So all the mucin was sucked. And then the specimen was delivered into the endo bag. A good peritoneal lavage was also given, which is not shown on this video, but then a very good copious 1.5 liter of saline lavage was given. No drain was put, and the specimen was removed through the umbilical 10 millimeter port. Now coming to the post-operative scores, he has an uneventful recovery, discharged on day 3. Now comes the histopathology. Why I am emphasizing that you should read the histopathology. Now this histopathology impression shows that feature suggestive of low-grade appendiceal mucinous neoplasm. Neoplasm can be benign as well as malignant. They have not mentioned cystoadenocarcinoma. So there is no indication of doing a radical right hemicolectomy. The CT didn't show any lymph nodes. Moreover, this histopathology microscopy shows that there is low-grade nuclear atypia, but there is no mitosis. So mitosis is an indication of malignancy which is not seen. Then there is no evidence of muscle invasion seen. So if there is no muscle invasion seen, this is a complete cure, as a simple appendectomy was done. The base was also healthy. I called him up today because I wanted to really inquisitive what happened in these 2 years. I asked him to do a follow-up, but then he luckily picked up my phone and he said he's absolutely healthy. He had shown to a surgeon in his local place who got a CT done 1 year back, which is absolutely normal. I have asked him till, because of the high index of suspicion, I have asked him today to get another CT done and get me back with it. Now the points to remember is, mucocele of the appendix is asymptomatic in quarter of the patients. Common presentation is RIF pain. Some patients will have a right iliac fossa mass in 50%. Ultrasound, if the appendicular diameter is 15 millimeter, that is what Rahate sir was mentioning as per the literature. If ultrasound shows a diameter which is more than 1.5 centimeter, think of mucocele of appendix. CT scan is necessary not only to confirm the diagnosis of the ultrasound, but also to know the extent of the disease, whether it is lymph nodal spread or it is already with liver mets. Simple appendectomy, if you see a normal cecum, which we have seen, and an appendicular pace with no perforation, simple appendectomy is the treatment of choice in such cases. The thing which, while doing the surgery, see and cut. Never cut blindly, see and cut. Follow up the anatomical plane, and if difficulty, you convert it to open surgery. Specimen removal in always in back. You don't want that mucin to either go into your 10 millimeter port or port side. It will lead to pseudomyxoma peritonei. Histopathology, reading of the full report rather than impression is very, very important for a surgeon. That is what I believe. And in only in cases of mucinous cyst adenocarcinoma, right radical hemicolectomy is indicated. Now these are, thank you, but these are some photographs from the WhatsApp archives. Astrologer, this is in case nobody can tell you how it is going to, how is you are going to search. No astrologer is going to help you. It is you and your colleagues which are going to help. I have seen many young surgeons, rather than preponing onto seeing in the patient, going into the history, doing a physical examination, they take a giant leap of doing a CT scan, doing a diagnosis, missing the physical examination and landing up with problems. And this is regarding my favorite, Sushant Singh. Lot of people are in depression. Yes, you are in depression. You try and fail and fail and fail, but then success ultimately will come to you. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, Zoeb sir. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice presentation. A very nice case, Prashant. One question is only,
thank you,
to you. Why you are operate right from base to tip?
Sir, it was a retrocecal. Now, to definitely go from tip to base in such difficult adhesions is very difficult. If you will see my first operative slide, I am just dissecting the appendix. Dissecting the appendix, trying to relax, relieve the appendix of its adhesion. Then thinking of, but then the tip was densely adherent to the retroperitoneum as well as to the cecum wall. So it was very difficult with the tip ports to do the adhesiolysis of the appendix tip. That is why I have gone from base to tip.
Okay. Have you seen there enlarged lymph node, paracolica and
No,
No.
no.
Yeah.
I have not shown in the video, but then I have seen the mesenteric lymphadenopathy. We have did the milking of the bowel to see for whether there are some mesenteric lymph nodes almost around 5 to 6, around 1 to 2 feet of the small bowel. There were none. There were none.
Okay.
Yeah, Zoeb sir, please unmute your mic, Zoeb sir, if you have any comments. Okay, so 1 minute. Zoeb sir, yeah, Zoeb sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please. Yeah.
See, stump appendicitis is one of the rare conditions, and it should be investigated thoroughly because it usually manifests as chronic pain, not an acute appendicitis. So colonoscopy should be one of the part whenever you are operating a stump appendicitis. Second, when you do a mucosil, your armamentarium should include a stapler at the base of appendix, so that some cup of cecum should come, and if you think it will perforate, it is nothing to hide, that better open and remove it total rather than perforate and then remove it.
Point well taken, sir. I'll keep it in my armamentarium next time.
Thank you, Zoeb sir. We have we have question from Dr. Rahate sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will differ, Prashant, with you on two points. First and foremost, all mucosil should be scopied. Colonoscopy is mandatory. And second point, what Dr. Zoeb sir has already mentioned. Dr. Zoeb sir has already mentioned. Always apply a stapler at the base in mucosil. So these are the 2 points.
I'll sir.
Sir, I'll go one step ahead, sir. When we have 3 to 3.5 centimeter of mucocil, which you can see on CT, as you said, we should go colonoscopically. I would always ask patient to go for right hemicolectomy rather than appendicectomy, because you are lucky in this case that it was a low-grade neoplasm, there was a TPA, but that cannot be seen intraoperatively. We can never expect that report always.
But don't you feel, Yogesh, that doing right hemicolectomy, suppose I would have done this in case, it would have been a big procedure in this case.
Yeah, but if it would have turned out to be an adeno-CA, it would have been a curative. You are lucky, I am saying. We are lucky that it got.
No, even after histopathology, it takes 5 days. If you see a histopathology report, and then you can go inside. Why to rush at the same go?
That is also an option that you go again, but then by that time the spillage has already happened. The spillage is also one of the very poor risk factor for these type of patients. Pseudomyxoma spreads very rapidly in these type of patients.
Yeah, I am aware of it.
Yeah, because
if
then
if I quote the literature, then the literature says that if you find an appendix mucosil which is such a big length, then do a conventional open surgery. But then it has also made mentioned in inverted commas, yes, you can try laparoscopy, wait for the histopathology report.
Yeah, but then as sir said, probably with cecum then, probably with cup of cecum then.
Yes, yes, that is what I have learned. I'll keep my armamentarium stapler.
Abhay sir. Abhay sir, your mobile. You are not on your mobile, Abhay sir. We can't listen to you. Yeah, we have Qureshi sir online by that time. Qureshi sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to reiterate that point which Prashant, Zoeb and all of us are making, and even Prashant, Prashant Bhote is also aware of it. The worst thing that can happen in a surgery, a surgeon must know. The worst scenario should be known to the surgeon. The worst thing which can happen is the spillage in this patient. At all costs, it has to be avoided. That's why Prashant has said that probably it is better to do it open and be safe, and all those things are there, because it will be very difficult to explain, and you will feel very bad if you do a spillage and this patient goes into pseudomyxoma peritoni. It's a tricky thing to treat, and we would not like at any cost to have that. So we should be careful, and of course, the point has been stressed about the cuff of the is very important. Although doing a hemicolectomy may be an overkill, but it could be one of the strategies where you actually go at one time and just finish it off. And yes, I think Prashant was lucky in this case. Thank you.
So we don't have any other question as of now. No hand. Okay, sir, you had some comment. You can put that in WhatsApp group. We can't listen to you. Probably you are not on your mobile. Any other comment from our panelist? Because we are already past 9:30. Yeah, we have Pradeep Arora, sir. Just a second, we'll take his. Yeah.
Yes, I also want to make the same point again. It cannot be overemphasized that the two stitches which were the two sutures which were put on the appendicular stump were perilously close to each other, and some spillage was anticipated. It is, I think, the right hemicolectomy in this situation would be an overkill, and but one must ensure that a part of the cuff of the cecum should be included. I mean, it should have been planned that way only. And if you don't have stapler or you don't have the skill to use it, then this procedure should have been open procedure right from beginning. But I want the clarification on this count further, that right hemicolectomy would be a procedure more than what is actually required according to pathology, because in this situation the chances of malignancy would not be more than 3 or 4% according to statistics. So in 96% of the instances, the procedure right hemicolectomy, ab initio procedure right hemicolectomy would have meant an overdone procedure. So this is what I want to say.
Sir, yeah, I agree, sir. It's a far bigger procedure considering the biopsy report. Considering the biopsy report and 3 to 4% chance of this patient having a malignancy. It could be a simple
mucus. 3-4%. But spillage must be avoided at all costs.
That is right, sir. Important. But then, yeah, but the thing is, whatever the literature or textbook says, the things are, if you have like 3 to 4 centimeter dilated appendix or a mucocele without any inflammation, as you can see in this city, there was no inflammation. It was just a plain mucocele of appendix, which we could see patient didn't have features of acute appendicitis. He just had right iliac fossa pain. Now these are the patient, he was above 40 years. Now these are the patients in whom we should think more of malignancy rather than it being a benign disease. Mike saying it's not a very major procedure. It's not a procedure which has got a very high morbidity or mortality. The anastomosis of IV colon is not. I mean, that's why right hemicolectomy can be a preferred procedure.
Yogesh, you have forgotten. I have put frozen section question mark. Now we have got frozen section in Nagpur now. What's your take now? Suppose you have this case, 3 centimeter.
Still, I'll go for right.
So would you like to do directly without doing a frozen section?
Yes, I'll go for right. See, sir, what I'll tell patient, it has to be conveyed properly to the patient that there is 4% chance it can come out malignancy. We will require a bigger surgery rather than an appendix. By that, we will be 100% sure whether it's there or not. If it is there, the malignancy is removed. If it is not, I know it will be a bigger surgery, but it is for your safety. By that logic, we can do it. It's not wrong. I mean, doing a right hemicolectomy.
It's not that if you can obtain informed consent for a procedure, you have legitimate right to do it now. Well, that is a wrong corollary. Your procedure must be legitimate in first instance. Then comes the question of informed consent. The question is that according to the data which is available in literature, at this juncture, if there are 3-4% chances, the procedure that has been recommended is removal of the appendix in toto, and if it is reaching the base up to the cecum, then you have to include a cuff of the cecum, whether you use stapler for it or you do an open procedure if you are a lesser mortal like me.
And one more thing, sir, having in-house frozen is a different entity rather than a frozen in Nagpur. now doing that surgery, sending that frozen sample to Alex or any other hospital where frozen is, then the report coming back after 1 hour, the patient is under anesthesia and all. By that time, I have not used
No,
frozen
it's
right
okay.
now
It's okay.
till now.
For a major surgery, half an hour, 45 minutes is okay, Yogesh. Second point. Now, statistics plays in a very different role. Here you are saying 4% chance, 96% chance it is not there. So if it is
Yes.
COVID, where you are going to get 96%, you are not going to get it. 4% you are going to. So statistics is very difficult. The patient would ask you, sir, 4% and 96%, I will not go.
Yeah. If he's not ready, I'll not do. If he's ready with my convincing, I'll do, sir. That's what I'm saying.
Say surgeon can convince. Surgeon, I was
Yeah,
just
we
seeing
have
the
to-
Grey's
we have to
Anatomy,
stop.
and it mentions that surgeons are very cunning. They do everything. They never tell how much pain is going to be there post-op. They say, thoda sa hi to dard hoga.
That is okay. We have one more question from Dr. Abhay Sinha, sir. Just last 2 questions now, and then we'll switch off the session. Abhay, sir.
Yeah.
And Mangesh, sir. Dr. Mangesh, sir, your question, please unmute your mic. I guess they are not there. Mangesh, sir. They are not responding. Okay. Santosh, sir, last comment from your side, then we'll close off the session.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sinha.
Yeah, Abhay, sir.
Hello. Prashant.
Yes,
You
sir.
emphasized that report should be read very carefully. In this
Yes, sir.
report, the histopathologist has mentioned that it is a neoplasm. He has not mentioned it is benign or malignant. So how do you interpret this report?
Yes.
It is a very ambiguous
Sir,
report.
Yes. I have called the pathologist in the morning because this was an old presentation. So I called up in the morning and asked, Madam, what this neoplasia means. And he said, no, it is not malignant. It is my fault. I should have written their low-grade mucinous neoplasm benign.
Yes.
That is what she should have written, and she accepted it.
Yeah,
She
that is what
accepted
that's correct. Okay.
Hello.
Okay then.
Yes.
Yogesh, am I
Yes, sir,
audible?
Mangesh, sir. Yes, sir.
No, but what I mean, in our India, we do all this thing, but if you go to Western countries, like, unless you histological proof it is a malignancy, you cannot go for a major surgery hemicolectomy.
Yes.
Because here we can convince the patient, in our country, we can tell anything, patient they don't mind it. But other Western countries, like, unless you have proof, documented proof that it is a malignancy, something like that, you cannot go for a hemicolectomy. They sue in the court, like. What's your take on that?
Sir, but then they can also sue you if you do appendectomy, spillage, and then it turns out to be a carcinoma. They can sue you there also, and that would be a bigger problem.
No, but 96% patients, they don't turn out to be malignancy. In the majority of cases, if you see according to statistics, then it is difficult for surgeon, like, the chance of suing is very high in the Western countries. It's not so common in our Indian country because our patients don't understand basically. So medical legal point of view, unless you do the first episiotomy, find a histopathology report, and if you find it's malignancy, then second stage you can go for hemicolectomy. That's what the legal point says. Yeah.
Okay, agreed. Yeah, we don't have any other question now. Sunil sir has again. Sunil sir has raised his hand. He has a question. Sunil sir.
Yes, my question to everybody. Most of the general surgeons, they have faced the mucus seal of the appendix in their lifetime so many times. How many of those patients they have developed the carcinoma, or they come for the same surgical problem? Is there any statistical data in Indian scenario? Most of the surgeon, they are doing the routine appendicectomy, they close the appendicular base as Dr. Prashant sir has done. But I don't think each and every patient should be subjected for the colectomy. What's the my surgeon's colleague's opinion, and what should be the take-home message? Yes.
This was my hello. This was my second case. One when I was resident, when I had seen. At that time also I recollect hemicolectomy was not done. And this time also, because of my teaching during my residency days, and I could see that the cecum is normal, the base looks okay, I didn't proceeded ahead. But then it was told to the patient relative, if the histopathology is carcinoma, you will need a right hemicolectomy or a close follow. But rest, I think the panelists have heard everybody. The panelists are the wise judge. They can give their comment.
Yes, I comment that for this. You should take a two-step approach. First appendicectomy, and then we'll diagnose and finalize the all histopathological report, and then go for the second surgery. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Clear.
Yeah.
See, sir, the problem is only one thing. I know it's only 4% or 5%. I totally agree. We can go for first appendicectomy, and then the problem is only one thing. Pre-operatively finding out whether it is malignancy or not is very difficult. You cannot surely say it is just plain mucocele or it is a mucinous cystadenoma or cystadenocarcinoma. There are 3-4 things which they have mentioned. Pre-operatively, you should look after if colonoscopy is showing a bulge. If colonoscopy is showing bulge into the cecum, then you should think of a more bigger surgery. That's what literature has said. If there is a chances of rupture during surgery, if it is very tense mucocele you are seeing on table, then going in for a bigger surgery is one of the option. Like removing the cecum or doing a colectomy is one of the option. But then again, there will always be two sides of a coin, and everyone will be on either side. As most of the senior people are saying, we should go for appendicectomy with some base of cecum, and then if histopathology shows it's a malignancy, then right hemicolectomy should be done. Probably that is the best way to go ahead.
Yes.
So we have reached 9:45. I guess we should close off the session today. I thank my panel, Santosh sir and Zoeb sir. I thank all the attendees as well as speakers for these beautiful and rare cases of appendix. We'll see you next week with some other topic or other webinar which will be planning soon. Thank you, everyone.
I congratulate to every speaker. Very nice presentation. Today's all cases. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got it.